Today, you will learn the story of a farmer who walked into a car dealership wearing dirty clothes, an old backpack, and speaking softly. He was humiliated by the staff but left with everyone hanging their heads in shame. This story shows what happens when we judge someone by their appearance and forget that our eyes cannot see what lies in a person's heart. Stay until the end, because the lesson this man gave, without raising his voice, will make you see people differently. The morning was clear, and the dealership's glass shone under the strong sun of the countryside. Inside, the air conditioning contrasted with the heat outside, and the salespeople, all dressed in white shirts, watched each customer as if they were fish about to bite the bait. Then he entered. The sound of his heavy boots on the waxed floor made some look up. A tall, thin man, his skin marked by the sun and his hands He wore faded jeans, a wrinkled shirt, and a crooked straw hat. The buttons on his shirt were missing. The smell of dry grass entered with him. "Good morning, gentlemen," he said, politely removing his hat. "I came to see some pickup trucks." One of the salespeople, Rodrigo, the most experienced and arrogant in the store, looked over the computer and barely disguised his smile. "Ah, sure. Who are you on?" "Yes, sir." "And have you seen the models online, or did you just come to take a look?" "I want to see 7 identical ones, strong load pickups. If they're black, better," he replied calmly. Rodrigo raised his eyebrows. 7. Anselmo nodded. 7. If I like them, I'll pay cash." The words hung like a silent bomb. Rodrigo let out a little laugh and looked at his colleagues in the corner. One of them whispered something and laughed. Another said, "He's going to assemble an army." Anselmo pretended not to hear. He simply opened his folder and took out a handwritten sheet of paper. His eyes scanned the showroom calmly, as if he had all the time in the world to convince anyone. That's when one of the younger salespeople, Gabriel, approached. "Mr. Anselmo, would you like some coffee? I can show you the available models with stronger engines and also with reduced gearing. Do you need them for off-road use?" "I only do business with those who speak to me with respect," replied the farmer, looking straight into the young man's eyes. Gabriel smiled slightly awkwardly and invited him to sit down. While the others laughed softly in the background, Anselmo sat with dignity, took a simple pair of glasses from his pocket, and began to explain in a low and measured voice what he wanted. He wasn't there to impress. He was there to fulfill a promise, and even though no one knew it yet, this wasn't just a purchase. It was a chapter in a story he had waited 30 years to write. As Gabriel calmly showed the models, glances shot across the room like poisoned arrows. Rodrigo, the oldest salesman, pretended to organize papers, but spoke loudly enough to be heard. "You want 7, right? Next, you'll ask for a helicopter too." The stifled laughter of the other 2 salesmen in the back did not go unnoticed. Gabriel cast a discreet glance in their direction, trying to maintain his composure. He was used to that kind of environment. But that morning something bothered him more than usual. Anselmo, for his part, seemed oblivious. He looked at the brochures, asked technical questions, with the precision of someone who knew more about dirt roads than many there knew about asphalt. He wanted to know about torque, load, capacity, reinforced suspension. "Do you intend to use them for heavy transport?" Gabriel asked curiously. "It won't be a gift," Anselmo replied, without taking his eyes off the technical sheet. Gabriel raised his eyebrows, surprised. "A gift?" Anselmo nodded without explaining further. It was at that moment that Rodrigo approached the table. With a falsely sympathetic expression, he leaned his arms and said, "Mr. Anselmo, we work here with real orders, okay? 7 pickups in cash is serious business. Did you bring any proof of income?" "Bank statement." Gabriel tried to interrupt. "Rodrigo, I'm with him. I just want to make sure we don't waste time on fantasy," he replied without even looking at Gabriel. Anselmo looked at him calmly, took his wallet from his back pocket, and placed a bank statement on the table. Gabriel looked discreetly. The numbers spoke volumes, and there was no fantasy there. Rodrigo cleared his throat. The other salesman was silent for a few seconds. "Well, in that case," he said, trying to smile, "maybe we can, ... It's too late," Anselmo interrupted firmly. I'll proceed with this young man here. He's the only one who treated me like a human being since I walked in." Gabriel was speechless. Rodrigo, with his mouth half open, just nodded and slowly walked away. The atmosphere in the store became strange. The silence said more than any sales pitch. For the first time, the laughter disappeared, but Anselmo remained He continued answering questions patiently, checking details, noting down the chassis of potential vehicles. Gabriel, still impacted, asked delicately, "Mr. Anselmo, forgive the question, but who are these trucks for?" Anselmo paused for a moment, looked towards the window where the light reflected off the body of one of the pickups. He took a deep breath. "For those who never let me down," and then smiled. A short smile, full of meaning. Gabriel didn't fully understand what it meant, but he knew at that moment there was something much bigger behind that request. With the models chosen, colors defined, and notes made, Gabriel had already put together a formal proposal. He was still trying to understand what drove that calm, determined, and enigmatic man. Anselmo asked for the 7 vehicles to be identical. Same color, same configuration, same options, all black, with 4x4 traction and diesel engines. No frills, but sturdy, like people who live in the mud. While Gabriel filled out the form in the system, he glanced sideways at the farmer, trying to imagine what was behind all that. A gift. 7 pickups in cash. Would they be for children, grandchildren, partners, on the other side of the store? Rodrigo watched with a sour face. The other salesman avoided eye contact. The manager, sensing the discomfort in the air, approached Gabriel with a restrained tone. "Is everything okay here?" "Yes, it is. He wants to close the deal today." The manager looked at Anselmo, who was responding to an email on his old cell phone with thick fingers and slow movements. "Sir, of course, we want to meet your request, but before anything, I need to verify the financial part. Transfer, registration note. Do you have a business account?" Anselmo didn't get irritated. He simply took a contact card and a recommendation letter, signed by a local bank, from the inner pocket of his shirt. Gabriel took it, read it, and handed it to the manager with a look that said, "You better not mess this up too." The manager fell silent, analyzing the documents. The letter spoke for itself. Anselmo was one of the largest suppliers of corn and milk in the region, with lands in 4 municipalities. Discreet but respected, the tension changed tone. The manager tried to force a smile. Of course, I apologize. We're just following protocol." "You don't need to apologize, young man. I'm used to it." Gabriel felt the impact of those words. They didn't come with bitterness, but with the calm of someone who had been judged too many times from the outside and never from the inside. Minutes later, the manager confirmed that the down payment transfer had been approved. Anselmo didn't hesitate. "Tomorrow morning, I'll close the rest. I want to deliver them on the weekend." Gabriel, surprised, asked, "You're going to deliver them personally?" "I am, one by one. I want to see their faces when I arrive." "Who are they?" he asked for the second time. Anselmo looked into the young man's eyes, as if assessing whether he deserved to hear. "If you really want to know, show up on Saturday on Quilombo Road. I'll take you with me." Gabriel hesitated for a moment, but something inside him, perhaps curiosity, perhaps respect, said yes. And at that moment, he still had no idea what was to come, but he knew he wanted to see it with his own eyes. Saturday arrived with clear skies and a dirt road. Gabriel didn't know what to expect. He followed Anselmo's instructions and drove down Quilombo Road, where the asphalt turned to dust, and the cell phone signal disappeared. When he found the wooden gate with a horseshoe nailed in the center, he knew he was in the right place. On the other side, he saw Anselmo, with a new hat, leaning against the first of the 7 vehicles lined up, all shiny and identical, black, powerful, aligned like soldiers, ready for a silent mission. "I thought you weren't coming," young man, Anselmo said, smiling. Gabriel got out of the car, shook his hand, and looked at the pickups. "So this is real, then, and the best is yet to come." Anselmo asked him to accompany him on the first trip. Gabriel got into the passenger seat. As the engine purred softly, the old man began to speak. Not like someone telling just any story, but like someone opening a piece of their own soul. It was all small, little land, big hunger. We only had one pickup, an old one falling apart. But it was what we had. He gripped the steering wheel with both hands, as if he were still in those times. We shared it for everything, taking milk to the city, fetching feed, rushing a sick child to the clinic. Sometimes it broke down along the way, and each of us would walk, pushing, laughing. No one complained because we were brothers of the road. Brothers of the mud. Gabriel listened in silence, feeling a lump form in his throat. One by one, they grew old. Some lost everything. One had a stroke. Another sold his land. One still works, but only with horses now. And you, sir, I kept going, produced more, saved. But I never forgot what they did for me, for my family. And that's why today, each of them is getting one of these. No warning, just gratitude. They stopped in front of the first house, a simple shack with a porch of warp boards. An elderly man came out with his shirt open and his face marked by time. He stopped at the gate and stood still. Do you remember me? Anselmo, I came to deliver your pickup. My what? A brand new pickup. It's there. It's in your name. It's paid off. The old man put his hands to his face and staggered. A woman came out from inside, crying. Is this a joke? No, it's an old debt. I'm just paying with love. Gabriel watched everything with misty eyes. And this scene repeated 6 times. Each house, a story. Each delivery, a hug. Each key, a symbol of something no money could buy. At the last delivery, Anselmo stopped in front of the 7th pickup and said, "This one is for me, not out of vanity, but to remember. Every time I drive, that it's worth walking with people who do not leave you by the roadside." On Monday, the dealership showroom seemed the same. Clean cars, starched, salespeople, coffee served in plastic cups. But there was a rumor in the air. A video had started circulating. Simple, made by Gabriel, with snippets of the pickup deliveries. No sensationalist captions, just images, just truths. Within hours, that content had spread across the city. Some recognized the faces of the men receiving the pickups with tears in their eyes. Others shared it with phrases like, "This is real gratitude," or "Learn from this man." Brazil. In the store, the salespeople who had mocked Anselmo, trying to pretend everything was normal. Rodrigo, in particular, avoided any subject related to the episode, but it was impossible to escape. The manager entered the sales room and announced, "The board watched the video. They called Mr. Anselmo for a tribute. It will be this afternoon." "Here?" asked Rodrigo, pale. "Yes, and guess who will receive him?" Rodrigo didn't answer. Gabriel stood up. "I will. It's the least I can do." When Anselmo entered through the door at 3 p.m., nothing about him had changed. The simple shirt, the calm step, the well-fitted hat, but the environment around him was different. Silent, respectful, with lowered gazes, he walked with the same serenity to the center of the store. The employees formed a circle. The manager started the speech. But Anselmo raised a hand. "There's no need for all this. I just came to thank this young man here." He pointed to Gabriel. He was the only one who looked me in the eye without judging me by my shoes. Gabriel was visibly moved. The colleagues began to applaud, some with shame written on their faces. Anselmo looked around and completed. "I know many people here laughed, mocked, but I won't give a sermon. I just want you to remember one thing. Not every man with an old hat is foolish, and not every new car goes further than someone with gratitude in their heart." Silence. No arguments, no responses. Rodrigo, red-faced, tried to approach, but Anselmo was already turning to leave. Before crossing the door, he looked one last time at Gabriel. "If one day you want to leave the city and travel on dirt roads, look me up. People who treat others well always have a ride, guaranteed with me." And then he left, leaving behind the sound of timid applause and the most silent lesson that dealership had ever received. From that day on, Anselmo's name began to circulate. not only among the city's salespeople, but among farmers, mechanics, merchants, and people who didn't even know him personally. He wasn't famous, he wasn't a politician. He didn't appear on billboards, but his story spread faster than any brand new pickup. At the dealership, sales continued. But something had changed. The coffee seemed more bitter, the laughter more restrained, the eyes more attentive. It was as if Anselmo's silence had taught more than any sales training. Gabriel was promoted months later, but he knew his greatest gain wasn't in the new position or the bonus. It was on that Saturday, on Quillambo Road, when he saw with his own eyes what gratitude in its purest form means. One afternoon, he returned to Anselmo's farm. He wanted to thank him personally. He arrived unexpectedly, but was received like an old acquaintance. "Well, good man. Did you come to have some coffee or walk in the dust?" Anselmo joked with the same calm smile. "I came to say that your story changed my life, Mr. Anselmo." "My story? Come on, young man. I just kept my promise. The road doesn't end when we arrive. It continues in the people who walked with us." The two sat under a tree. The sun set slowly, tinging the field orange. The black pickups were all there, lined up in front of the headquarters, as if silently guarding the stories they carried. Gabriel looked at them and said, "Everyone remembers those who buy, but you made the world remember those who helped build." Anselmo lowered his eyes thoughtfully. "The world forgets easily, my son, but when we build with the heart, not even time can erase it." And on that day, with the wind on his face and the dust of the road still stuck on the windshield, Gabriel understood. There are fleets that are worth a lot, but none is worth more than a promise kept. This wasn't just a purchase. It was a silent tribute, a gesture from someone who never forgot who pushed a pickup with him when the world got stuck. Who are the people who walked with you, even when the road was just dust? Comment below on what this story made you reflect on. Like, share with someone special, and subscribe to the channel for more stories that touch the heart.